I want to welcome everyone this evening to our January 22nd, 2019 regular Board of Education meeting. If everyone would please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Eastwood.
Here.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Here.
Mr. Skidmore.
Here.
Ms. Pavlik.
Here.
Mr. Ross.
Here.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask for a motion for the minutes of our December 10th, 2018 special meeting, our January 7th, 2019 organizational meeting, our fiscal year 2020 tax budget hearing on January 7th, 2019, and the minutes for our work session on January 7th, 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve said minutes.
I'll second.
Now I ask for changes. Does anybody have any changes, modifications, updates, anything? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
Do we have any additions, removals, modifications to our agenda tonight? Seeing none?
I'll move to accept the agenda.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
And now we'll move into our informational discussion items. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Sable.
Good evening and happy snow day to our staff and students. Hoping the weather temperatures increase so we can get everybody back in our doors tomorrow. It's quite a challenge when the temperature drops, especially with that amount of snow that we had, because the ice doesn't work very well when the temperatures drop somewhere around 11 or 10 degrees, and that's why you see some of the compacted snow out there. And we have been in contact with the city as well as our own maintenance crews, and they're going to be working to get salt out now that the temperatures have increased. I think I did see in the weather forecast that we could be facing a little bit of rain this evening, which is not what we want to see on top of compacted snow, but hopefully everyone will be able to get that salt out there. Temperatures will stay up and we'll be a go for tomorrow. I know it was a nice surprise for a 5-day weekend for our students who were off for the Martin Luther King Day, as well as this past Friday. And on that note, I'm happy to say that despite the snow day, and I did tell our principals that they did not need to be here tonight, that Ms. Halleck and I talked this morning, and she's eager to present, so I want to invite her up to the front.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Sable. Thank you for still allowing us to be here despite the snow day to share. I have Amanda Doty with me, and she is our administrative intern this year at Northrop. So we decided that we wanted to present on PBIS at Northrop, Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. And we talked about that here at board meetings in the past and some of the steps that we've taken. But we've worked really hard at now putting into place Tier 2. And you walk through the halls and you see these beautiful things going on. So we thought what a better way to showcase that than to put it into a video. So with that, we'll start our video.
One of the things we really pride ourselves on here at Northrop is our sense of culture, our feel of community, and really embracing our school family. culture of Northrop for several years now, and it's evident when you walk through our halls. It's a combination of things. It's every student being greeted by name every day, and usually by more than one adult. It's the way we start our day together at Morning Motivator, singing patriotic songs and celebrating even just the little things. Every staff member takes ownership and interest in every student. It's truly a fabulous thing. PBIS has only added to this positive culture. We started with Tier 1 and made sure that we had clear and consistent expectations for students and a shared language among everyone in our school.
I can practice the 3 R's each day. I can be respectful.
We spend time throughout the year revisiting these as needed and then acknowledging the hard work and the successes of our students through PBIS rewards.
I think it is motivating for the students because they're able to work towards a goal and they're able to monitor themselves and their actions that they play in the classroom both inside and out. One of my students, he was really looking forward to it and really want to get towards that, so I'm going to work really hard on listening.
My name is Trisha Nastish. I'm a music teacher at Eliza Northrop Elementary. I'm also one of 4 teachers who shops the students on a weekly basis for their PBIS rewards. And I've noticed a difference in the way the students think about their rewards that they're getting. I noticed a difference in the way they shop. And I think this is a very positive system that can create an opportunity for the students to learn about saving and spending. And it also teaches them about the value and effort of their own work, weighed against the level of desire they may have for a particular item or a particular activity. And they save more, they think more about what it cost and how much effort it took them to get there. So it's certainly a positive habit that we want to start when they're younger, and certainly a habit that they can take into the rest of their life.
Tier 1 was a great place for us to start, and we continue to make sure it's solid each year. But when our PBIS committee really started to look at the data and noticing behavior trends, we realized we needed more. So we moved into Tier 2.
My name is Jill Gordon, and I'm one of the intervention specialists at Northern. And I am on the Tier 2 team this year in working with PBIS. And Tier 2 has given us a lot of supports that we are realizing that benefit all of our students.
We look to the social emotional learning standards from the state to help guide our teaching. Having leadership teams in place for several years, we decided to take the first meeting of each month to teach these positive social emotional skills.
When I was trying to make something from my Lego roller coaster, it kept on falling apart, so I got very you feel stress and you feel like you want to hurt them.
Okay, so you might feel stressed and you might feel some of those negative actions, right? Things that we might regret.
The PBIS committee creates the lesson and shares it with the teams. We began our teaching with a focus on identifying emotions.
It looks like she has her eyebrows are slanted down and looks like she's staring at somebody and her legs are crossed. Her chin's kind of down. She's obviously mad at somebody. I think she's about on maybe a yellow So you count to 5. You start count to 5. You either look away to look away, take deep breaths. How's your body feeling? And make your best choice.
Alex, tell me a little bit about your calm corner that you have here in your classroom.
I have it to calm me down. I can make my best choice. Take deep breaths. And I can always think about using this. I feel better and happy with this.
This is a basket that my kids have available to them. So if they're feeling stressed out, if they're feeling overwhelmed, if they just need a minute to themselves, it's a tool that they can use. So I have these calming just shaker bottles in them. Some of them use them almost like a timer, so they'll shake it and set it down. Others, this is truly the calming sensation as they use the shaker bottles. I've got some stress balls in here. These ones are filled with, I couldn't even tell you, rice beans, something like that, and then this is just your typical stress ball. I have coloring books and then just crayons. I use pipe cleaners all the time because they're silent.
We're really thinking about the spaces that kids are spending time in and looking for ways to keep them safe and supported.
I have a very active group this year, so I feel like the flexible seating was a great thing for them to try. I really feel that this is a great way for kids to be up and active throughout the learning experience. They can choose where they work best, if it's on a yoga ball or on the stability disc. They get to pick that spot that works best for them. It really helps them maintain that focus.
I like the yoga balls because you can bounce around while you're doing your work. And I also like the blue cushions because if you want to have a low table and sit down and the cushions are soft, you have to pick somewhere where you're going to be the best at your work, respectful, responsible, and ready.
Those kids who might need a little more, a check-in, check-out coach to meet with each day.
You had almost all smiles yesterday. It was a good day. How do you think your day's going to go today? Thumbs up. What do you think you're going to do that's going to help your day go really well?
Be respectful, responsible, and ready.
If you have something to say in the carpet, what are you going to do? Man, look at you. You even show exactly what it looks like, and you were so quiet while you did it. I think you're going to have a rock star day. I can't wait to see you after recess.
I can't too.
So PBIS is something that obviously we are very proud of at Northrop. We worked very hard. The staff is extremely committed to this. It took a lot of professional development in the beginning and learning and kind of, setting goals for ourselves and then figuring out how we would implement those things in the classroom. But as you can see, we're seeing a lot of great success from it. We still have our challenges. That's the nature of working with children every day. But the staff is committed to doing what's best for kids. And I think our data really reflects that. And then when we have challenges, we think outside the box and figure out how we're going to approach it differently. So thank you for the opportunity to share.
I'd like to thank Kim and Amanda. Northrop's really made great strides. I know just over the 3 years that I've been in the district. And the addition of Amanda last year in a interim role as assistant principal is such a big deal for our district and the future of our district. Allowing teachers to grow into those leadership roles, which we've talked about as a philosophy over the last several years, And I believe, I don't want to speak for Kim, but a lot of what they're seeing happen and the actual tracking of it due to data is possible because of the extra leadership that's available in that building. I know Amanda and I haven't worked real close together, but I've heard nothing but positive things about Amanda and what she's been doing in the building and the team that Kim and Amanda have made. So I want to thank you. I think this really shows that the PBIS model works when it's properly implemented, and it takes time and patience to make that happen, which you and your staff did. And it's really cool to see the results and actually see the charts that discipline's improving in the building.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
I have two things I'd just like to say quickly. One thing is it's interesting to see the classrooms. I'm glad you showed the videos of the classrooms and kids in action, especially for my generation. When we were in school, if kids were bouncing up and down, they were told to stop fidgeting. Philosophy of education has changed. I like that you're embracing that. I know that your building has been recognized by the state for the PBIS, what you've achieved and your successes, and I want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
That is fantastic, and you are a model for our other buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Kim, or Mrs. Halleck.
You can call me Kim.
I think the stats that you showed from,
Yes.
I don't know, September to December and then to January, whatever, man, it's amazing. And I think one of the reasons that we serve on the board is to see that, and it gives us an opportunity to support you in the classroom. That is amazing, and very proud of you and what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful program.
Thank you very much.
Can I piggyback on what they've been saying as well? I mean, the work that you've done and the team, just phenomenal, because none of that just happens. It just doesn't. And so hats off to you and all the staff.
Yes.
And how you've put it together, and that presentation, it's amazing. And then we get addressed by people from time to time, well, what are you doing with all this money? What are we doing with all these days? They how the perceptions can be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is evidence that that's going to the kids, and the benefit is there. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Like I said, we enjoy it. We work hard. There was a need. The kids are changing. The population is changing, and it's up to the adults to change to be able to meet those needs. And hats off to Amanda, all the work she's done, and truly the staff. I mean, this isn't always easy to embrace, and they have done a remarkable job. So thank you.
And Ms. Busby, can we make sure we get that up on our website? Thank you. I do have to mention that Kim and I talked at the very beginning of the years, and one of her goals was to put together some video news. So to see it come into fruition, outstanding job. I think I just record and post. I'd like to take a few minutes to recognize our Board of Education this evening. You may or may not know, but January is Board Member Month, Board of Education Member Month. And I think people don't realize the amount of time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears, literally all of the above, that go into being a board member. And we're very fortunate here in Medina City Schools because we've got board members that are truly dedicated to students. And the reason why I say that is because I've been in multiple districts, and I've been in places where it seemed like maybe some people had an agenda, and I just don't see that here on our board. Everybody's agenda is our students and our staff. It's a big reason why we've been able to advance over the last several years like we have. The ongoing communication amongst board members, whether it's an agreement or disagreement, as well as the communication amongst administrators and the community, I think has been vital to our success. I want to thank all of you for the support you've provided me. You've provided our district over the course of the past 3 years. I was fortunate to walk into a situation here with an outstanding team sitting around this half circle here, and I'm excited to keep things moving forward. which is our motto this year. And last but not least, I wanted to recognize Becky Parkhurst for serving as board president for the 2018 school year. And at least in my time here, each board president we presented with a certificate. So hopefully you can hang this in your office somewhere. And again, thank you for your service. If you think board members use a lot of time and effort, it's tenfold as a president, just because of the amount of work you have to do in communicating with other board members and working more directly. That's probably the hard part, having to work more directly with Dave and myself. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sable.
And one last item that I wanted to share, I wanted to talk a little bit about our strategic plan. And I know it was brought to my attention by some of our board members that, you know what, we are on a daily basis working on our strategic plan. And if you step into our offices or you step into our buildings, you hear constant conversation about the plan and what components we're doing and what's the next step and doesn't fit in the plan. But I don't think we spend enough time over the course of the year in sharing out with the community some of the things that are going on. So I wanted to share two bigger picture items having to do with our strategic plan that are majorly in the works right now. And will hopefully be in place, not hopefully, will be in place for the upcoming school year. Within the strategic plan, we dedicated to increasing our gifted services to students. I know Tina Cassidy and Matt, they are working to add teaching positions to both of our middle schools as well as our high schools to have gifted teachers actually within those buildings. That plan even extends beyond just gifted services, but it's also going to impact all students and is going to be part of the new learning model, exploratory learning that we're using with the new centers that we featured in our first community chat over at Claggett, soon to be one at Root and soon to be one at the high school as well, which will also be supported by those gifted teachers. Also, I wanted to share proposed new high school courses, and the reason why they're proposed, twofold. First of all, the high school is still working together, the teachers and the administrators and the guidance counselors, to formulate exactly what recommendations they want to make in terms of new courses for the high school. This continues on with that strategic plan effort of making more electives and more classes available to our students. I anticipate that we'll have more discussion, and I'm hoping for a recommendation to the Board of Education for these new courses to be adopted at our February regular meeting. I want to make sure not only that relates to strategic plan, but that all of you as board members are aware of these courses as well. And it just has to do with some of the timing in terms of getting the course selection guide together. So I didn't want the students to find out about them before our board members. So potential new courses for the upcoming school year include college algebra, which is a more challenging course than what we've offered in the past, which I think it was college math that we've offered. AP US history, which I'm thrilled to be adding, I think adding back a push. In my time as a high school principal, that's been one of the core AP classes that a lot of students take for their first time their sophomore year and an introduction to AP coursework. French 2 is a natural progression. We added French 1 this year. We were fortunate to get an outstanding teacher in that position. I am going to take a guess that that program is going to be expanding, and we're probably going to be discussing additional personnel, another French teacher to help take on that course load. That's a good thing. That's exactly what we wanted to happen. And the last course that we're considering at the high school is biomedical sciences, and that would be part of our science department. Tina and Matt right now are working with the Medina County Career Center. We have an opportunity, again, like we're doing at our middle schools, to partner with them, where the Career Center would work with us and actually provide a teacher to teach this course. And again, this course fits directly within our strategic plan with those hands-on, experience-based lessons. So we're hoping to get this squared away in the coming weeks. We'll have further discussion at the upcoming work session, where I know Tina and Matt can provide a little more detail, and then a planned, hopeful recommendation for these at the regular February meeting. Thank you.
The district bank balance decreased $4.2 million in December, down to $71.39 million. This is $1.9 million above last year at this time. However, general fund revenues were below last December by $694,000. Your real property and public utility came in lower. Also, your property tax allocation, which includes the homestead and rollback monies, came in lower because of the lower real property. You also have your general fund expenditures, and they were up by $1.6 million over last year. And this is part of the increase which we understand relates to the strategic plan. Your sales tax fund balance is down to $2.3 million. The district spent approximately $17,000 in December, and the largest portion went to fleet maintenance, fleet lease agreement. The recreation center capital fund balance, I've added this on here in December. I believe I added just this summary on in November. I've also added on the totals for the beginning of the year into the financials from now going forward. The balance for the recreation center is $580,141. The district was reimbursed by the city $8,416 for prior projects, and the district spent $3,274. The district has received $98,507 in investment income for December. The total collected for the current year is approximately $143,000 above the fiscal year 2017. And we are at 75.9% of what was collected all of last year. And finally, the district currently has a general fund estimated true cash of 237 days. This is down from November by 20 days and below last year by 5.14 days. If Ryan will stay on this graph here, the Finance Committee wanted me to talk about this graph. It actually shows two things to everybody. One is how the district's funds go up and down throughout the year. You could see in January and February. February, we get most of our first half cash from the county auditor for tax collections. And you can see after we get that money in February, we start spending it down. Then you get to July and August, and we get the second half collections, and then we spend it down. So you could see the dips here in December, January, and then the dip in June. What you also see on this graph is the last 5 years, and you could see that our cash balance has been growing for the last 5 years, and we said that here when we passed the substitute levy, we said that we were going to be spending down. If you look from August on through December, the fiscal year 19 bar, it's below the fiscal year 19-18 bar consecutively. And we are looking for that trend to continue. How much it will continue and be below the prior year's bars is debatable depending on revenues coming in and expenditures going out. But we do look at that to be continuing over the next 3 years. Now, what we don't see on here is the 5-year forecast. The 5-year forecast, if you take a look at it, will show that we are anticipating over the next, out to 2023, that the district will be spending down their money. And the reason we're spending it down is because of our strategic plan. The strategic plan offers opportunities for students throughout the 5 years, improved and more opportunities for the students. And with those opportunities come more expenses to the district. However, the revenues that we're taking in are still going to be remaining the same, especially on the property tax side, because the levy itself was a substitute levy. It was not an increase. And so as you keep your revenue the same and you increase your expenditures, we'll be dropping our balances down. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Do we have any board communications tonight?
Yes, Mr. S. The Finance Committee held its first meeting of the calendar year on January 16th. We welcomed a new member to the committee. John Foster is a community member and district parent, and we look forward to his participation. Aaron and Dave told the committee the Ohio Facilities Commission assessment is scheduled for the summer of 2019, and the fee that's associated with that, $135,000, is covered and paid for by the 1998 tobacco settlement. When I looked that up, many states, Ohio included, have placed those settlement funds into their general treasury, making that money available for many different programs. We are fortunate the state allows that money to be used for this assessment. And just to piggyback on Mr. Chambers, the committee did review the spending down of that investment income. All the committee members agreed that we are in the business of educating students, not growing an investment nest egg, is how people talked about it. So we're very fortunate to have the opportunity that we have that investment income to use to catch up on our maintenance.
Regarding some of the activities coming up in the facilities, there's really three big ticket items that we're going to be dealing with in the upcoming year. One is roofing for the rec center area, as well as Canavan. And these are substantial projects. And so as we look at what we have to work with and where the money has to go, you try to prioritize what you need. There's parking needs throughout the district that will be another large ticket item. And then long awaited progress on something we call the Northrop Trail. And there's a lot of people who are looking forward to that. But those are three big items that are coming up this year. On another note altogether, I've been contacted by some people from the After Prom Committee. And so they're looking forward to any involvement we might be able to support them with and or invite the public to regarding the support baskets that they have, as well as the volunteering of time. That's obviously a huge item, whether it's helping set up, helping clean up. That's an amazing thing they do for the After Prom here in Medina. And having participated in that a couple times, it's a very, very long day. But I encourage people who might be hearing this at home, contact me and or we'll, I'm sure it's on the website, but there's opportunities to serve. Anybody can do it. Thank you.
Several of us had the privilege last week to sit through a webinar on the new legislative changes that are coming down the pike at the end of the year that were enacted. And so we're glad that the administration has their finger on the pulse with those, and nothing appears too drastic, but hopefully would just be adding some things here and there for the district. But it is important to keep up with that. One other thing to mention, this Saturday is the pancake breakfast with the foundation putting it on, and I think a lot of the board's probably going to help flip some pancakes maybe that day. It's 8 a.m. until noon. I know there's a whole bunch of student groups performing, and I think Encore might be performing, if I'm not mistaken. I think they do perform as part of that. And it looks like tickets are $3 per person or $4 for 10, and senior citizens 60 and over are free with voucher. So so hopefully everybody will come out. Hopefully the weather will cooperate, and we'll have a really fun day this Saturday. So thank you.
I just had a few communications. There was some talk about the rec center. We were briefed on the slide. The slide opened on right after Christmas. And I just want to thank our interim director of business affairs, Mr. Magnacca, and working with the rec center folks and getting that fixed. Now it's up and running. And the kids are having a good time with that. That's the first thing. I also want to piggyback off of what Rob said. The foundation is hosting the pancake breakfast, but they're also, I think Sunday is another foundation event, the magic show, if I'm not mistaken. It's called Magic Gives Back. I think it's Sunday at 4 o'clock at the PAC, sponsored by the foundation. And I want to thank the Medina Schools Foundation for supporting the school district with these types of fundraisers, and because the money comes back into grants to all of our buildings. So it's a wonderful organization, and I hope everybody can get out and enjoy that magic show. Another thing I was going to mention was last week, art teacher Bobby Foy continued her tradition on she invites students and staff, past and present, for an hour and 51 minutes to come in and paint a canvas. And the money that is generated, she has the paintings are sold in auction, and then the money goes back into scholarships. But what a wonderful event. And what amazes me is, as you walk around, because it's in like a circle, you see these canvases evolve, and you see the talent that these kids and the painters have. It's just amazing, something that I marvel at, because I know I can't do it. But I just want to thank Bobby for continuing that tradition and giving back in the form of scholarships through her art program. And one more thing, I wanted to thank Aaron. I wanted to thank Aaron and Dr. Kwalik and whoever was responsible for bringing in that guy who taught that in-service class, that Alice class. I mean, that guy was phenomenal. He was funny, but very professional, and he got his point across. And so it was very educational for me, and I think the staff really enjoyed his presentation. So thank you for hosting that in-service class. And that's all I got. Thank you. Do I have to do a motion? Okay.
Excuse me, if it please the board, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the December 18 Treasurers Report. Item number 2, supplemental for 2018-19 permanent appropriations. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the following supplementals for 2018-19 permanent appropriations. We have the Scholarship Fund, Principals Fund at Garfield, Public School Support, Students, Student Council at Root, the Art Club at the high school, Men's Volleyball, Title I and Title 4A. The title funds are going to be changing. This is an example of it. I believe last 2 Fridays ago, we got notification that there were changes made. We took a look at the CCIP, which is the state's funding mechanism, and nothing occurred to the district's funds at all. On Monday, that changed. Monday, we had one change go through, and on Friday, I notified Tina, and then on Monday, I notified Tina, and then on Tuesday, I notified Tina there was another change. So it's just going to go from now until June. We're just going to have small changes here that you see. So don't be upset that these are going to be on from now until then. Item number 3, we have a transfer, a fund-to-fund transfer, which you all should know about. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following fund-to-fund transfer. These are the monies that the board puts aside for the rec center on a yearly basis, $100,000. Any questions?
Just one. You, in your communications earlier, you mentioned the rec center capital fund total. Is that going to go up now by 100,000 after we vote on it?
Yes, this will go up by 100,000.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
I make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
I did want to just add on to what Mr. Chambers said with that general fund transfer to the rec center. That is the amount that is agreed upon with the joint operating agreement that we do each year, this time each year. Thank you.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
First item tonight is donations. I think I feel like I say this every single month, but it blows my mind the amount of donations that we're fortunate to receive. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following donations to the Medina City schools. A few I do want to point out, and this seems to be a fairly regular occurrence, but we have anonymous donors who will contact our food services department and pay off students' food accounts for them. In addition to that, we've got community members who also came in and dropped off groceries for some of our students that could use some extra help at home. Number 2 is policy consideration. It is recommended that the Board of Education review for the second time with possible adoption the following revised policy. And this is the employment of substitutes. This has gone through the policy committee. In addition, we've had some extended conversation. The adjustment that we're requesting to this policy is to provide the superintendent approval to provide the superintendent the ability to approve long-term substitutes pay, because at times substitutes can come in and then there's a prolonged period of time between board meetings and they could go weeks without pay even though they are working.
Mr. Sable, just as a point of housekeeping, the policy still shows administrative content, and I think our practice is after the night of the first reading, we make it public content, and it's still showing administrative on that policy tonight. So, I mean, we need to have that turned on if we could, please. Thanks.
Would you like to pull that item for the next meeting?
I mean, it's just one policy tonight. I mean, sometimes we'll have 10 or 15. It's just the one. I mean, we could read it quick if maybe we just read it when we get done going through the business. There's like 2 paragraphs. I guess we could just read it real quick. But I don't know. I mean, maybe if we can get it public and then by the time we're done, I don't know if somebody can do that while we're here, if they can change it over.
Yep, I think that's actually in process, and yes, we do typically move those to the public session, and I missed that.
It's okay. I mean, I just don't know how the rest of the board feels. If it's not critical, I guess we could pull it till next month, but otherwise, it's just one.
Next is a service agreement. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreement for the 2018-2019 school year. And this is to provide an independent special education evaluation for a specific Medina City School student. I do want to point out that we did make an adjustment to the board agenda today, which we typically try not to do. We used to have an additional contract on here. In looking back at records, it's a contract that was already approved by the board. It's actually a new service, but it falls within the lines of a contract that was already approved by the board. In addition, we had a modification to the cost for the current contract service agreement that's on here. And the next 3 items are all stipend payments. The first is the stipend payment from Baldwin Wallace. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the stipend payments from Benjamin Stobbs, Denise Robinson, Megan Wilbur, and Jennifer Stiles in the amount of $75 each for being a cooperating teacher with Baldwin Wallace. And the next one is Grand Canyon University. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the stipend payment to Nicole Peepard in the amount of $500 for being a cooperating teacher for Grand Canyon. And then the 6th one is the University of Akron. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the stipend payments to Michelle Waird, Terry Surreal, and Amanda Casey in the amount of $320 each, and stipend amounts to Jason Locker and Margaret Blasco in the amount of $160 each for being cooperating teachers. And last but not least is our personnel recommendation. These are all regular business items, regular approval of volunteers. One change that we did make on this agenda, and it was my request in having some conversation with our athletic director, Todd Hodke, but the athletic volunteers are now separated out. It helps me see specifically who's volunteering in our athletic programs as well as which programs they're volunteering with.
I'd like to make a motion to approve these items.
Oh, okay, wait, I just going to ask, are we going to read that policy, or do we decide to hold off until the next meeting? Okay.
I still think we need a motion and a second before we can discuss.
I'll second. Aaron?
No, my question was, we're going to read that policy, or are we going to wait till the next meeting?
I think it would be okay to read it, for transparency, especially since these policies come and any updates come from Neola. So it's already been vetted through the legality of it. And as you're reading, the item that has been changed is bolded, and that's something that could be pointed out. And then that way we could put this to rest and get it passed.
And just to clarify with what you said, not only are they from Neola, Mrs. Pavlik, but they haven't gone through the policy committee twice. We did approve the first reading back in December, and where the public had 30 days to review it. So I think that if we read it, that would suffice.
And then moving forward, we just triple check and make sure that it goes into the public content after that first reading. That's good.
I have to look back historically, and I know this gets confusing because the board reads the policies twice, and I know we've talked about this before. But I'm thinking that we made them public once the board approved them. And that's where I'm not certain whether it was after the first reading or after it was actually the actual approval. But yeah, I'm more than happy to read the policy if you'd like me to. Employment of substitutes, which is policy 3120.04. The Board of Education recognizes the need to procure the services of substitutes in order to continue the operation of the schools as a result of the absence of regular personnel. The superintendent shall employ substitutes for assignment as services are required to replace temporarily absent regular staff members and fill new positions. Such assignment of substitutes may be terminated when their services are no longer required. This is the section here that has been adjusted. The superintendent may also approve the hiring and pay of long-term substitutes prior to the approval of the Board of Education. The Board of Education shall approve or reject the long-term substitute at the next opportunity when such business is part of their regular agenda at a board meeting. Substitutes must possess a valid Ohio professional license or substitute license unless the superintendent believes the person's application information indicates the person has the qualifications to receive a teacher's license. Such a person may be employed on a conditional basis for a period not to exceed 60 days from the date the person submits a request for a license to the Department of Education through the date the superintendent receives the person's valid teaching license. If the license is not delivered within the time period, the person's employment is to be terminated. Substitutes also must pass a background check performed by the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation and the Federal Bureau of Investigation and reference policy 3121. In order to retain well-qualified substitutes for service in this district, the board will offer competitive compensation at a rate set by the board. A substitute employed for more than 60 days in one specific position will be placed at the minimum salary on the current teacher's salary schedule and will be eligible for fringe benefits provided regular staff members. Daily substitutes shall not earn sick leave nor be paid for days when students are not required to attend school.
Thank you, Mr. Zabel.
Ron,
Public
Mr. Ross.
Public comment. Okay, do we have any questions?
I just wanted to point out that one of the sentences or one of the requirements that has been removed was that substitutes used to be required to undergo a tuberculosis exam in accordance with law and at the direction of the Ohio Department of Health or the local health department, and that requirement has been removed per Neola.
Thank you.
Mr. Ross and Mr. Sable, thank you for reading that. I feel better that we did that. And I know we can't do it when we have a lot of policies, but usually they're turned on. So I'm good. Thank you.
No, I agree. I think the goal is not to be transparent and open to the community. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Is there any? So is there any public comment on any of the? Is there any public comment on any of the above action items? Seeing none? Roll call.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
We'll move into the public participation section. I'm going to read this. Community members wishing to address the board are asked to abide by the following guidelines. Attendees shall register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. After those that have registered have spoken, if time allows, the board president will ask for public participation from all other attendees. Please state your name, your address, and your affiliation. Please keep your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Any members of the community, the public, wish to address the school board? Seeing none? I do want to say I'll get this. I'll get it. It's going to take time. I'll get it. I'm bowing my head. I'll get it. I'll get it. All right. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion to move into executive session to consider the employment, discipline, demotion, or compensation of a public employer official, to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee or official, licensee or regulated individual, to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or the sale of property at competitive bidding, if premature disclosure of information would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the general public interest. And let's see, and that's it.
If that was the motion, I'll second it. Thank you.
Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to executive session. We will not take action afterwards. So if I could entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting? No? Not yet. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're going into executive session. Thank you.